Hello friends, welcome back. So I'm going to do a tag for Wednesday today. So this is the reading tastes tag, which is I think it's about a year old. It was created by Sophie's Thoughts, but I've seen it on a bunch of channels the past couple of weeks. And so yeah, I think it's really good. It's a really good tag to do because it's just all about your reading tastes, which I think is it's very good to know booktubers' reading tastes when you find new channels and see if you're interested in following them for likewise similar reading tastes or not. And yeah, so I'll just get on with it. Number one, what is your favorite genre? This is an easy one. It's crime, mystery, thrillers, even spy thrillers as well. I'll lump in with that. Anything with I quite like the framework of genre fiction, but especially crime. For me, it just works. Especially like whodunit stuff, kind of stuff. Just I don't know. I just have one of those minds that's very, very much into problem solving. But I also feel that crime novels often deal with big subjects that I'm interested in too. Number two, what is the most difficult genre for you to read? Any kind of self-help, anything, especially those mildly successful people who seem to have the secret of life and think anyone can just be as successful as they if they just read the book. Any kind of dieting book as well, like anything that's kind of like quite exploitative. Also some of the kind of like uber capitalist business kind of memoirs kind of thing, or just very dry economics don't tend to be for me. Sorry, that's the computer. Number three, what is your preferred age range? Not sure I really understand that, so I'll say 4 to 99. If you're a Lego fan, you'll get that reference. Are you a character-driven or plot-driven reader? Both, really. I'm very, very happy to read a character-driven book. Raymond Chandler tends to be character-driven. I find the hard-boiled 1950s kind of paperback crime that I really like is probably more character-based, whereas kind of golden age crime from like the 20s to the 40s is probably more plot-driven, but either or both, I'm very happy. Number five, do you have a preferred perspective? I really like first person. I particularly like first person that is speaking to the reader. I quite like that whole sound. It feels like someone's just talking to you in a bar or something kind of thing. But I mean, I'll read any perspective, but I've got a real love for the first person, and I read a lot of writers and critics saying that it's actually the easiest. First person is like the easiest perspective to write a book in, and that it's usually like debut novelists and younger writers will tend to write in first person, but then adults and more advanced writers will write in the third. But I think first person is it's harder to do really, really well sometimes. Yeah, I think to really pull it off, like I've read some bad first person, and the first person perspective also it does lend itself to unreliable narrator a lot, and I know that kind of annoys a lot of people. I'm not so bothered by it too much, but yeah, I can see that as well. And unreliable narrator is really hard to pull off well. And I guess the other thing I like about first person perspective, especially in like a detective fiction kind of book is if it's solely first person, then you only get to see what they see, what happens, and so it kind of age you along to solving the crime along with them. You know what I mean? Like you're not privy to information outside of what they are privy to, if it's done properly. Number 6, do you have a preferred tense? Not really. I guess probably past tense. But not really bothered if it's in the present tense either. I can't imagine if I've ever read a book in the future tense or anything, or any of the more obscure tenses, but yeah, I'm not that fussed, to be honest. A good book's a good book, it doesn't really matter how it's written. Do you like series or standalone books best? I mean, every book, even in a series, should be standalone. I think it's quite rude and presumptuous to write a book only for people who've written your only books. It's kind of a bit egotistical too, especially if you have a really long-running series. People come to books at different times. I often find a book just perusing a second-hand store or a library, and if it's the 5th in a series, I still want to read it. If it's interesting, I still want to read it. I don't want to start reading it and be like, oh, I don't know what's going on because I've not read the other books. There's nothing wrong with having nods and more to the book that people will enjoy if they've read the whole of the series, but the central plot to the book shouldn't be reliant on other books in the series. It should be understandable. And likewise with characters, you can have character development throughout the series, but the fundamental characteristics of everybody should be kind of redefined if it's important to the books. Redefined in each book in the series. And there are people who do this really, really well, because at the start you kind of want to lay down all the kind of ground rules for characters and plots in books and series, but you don't want to do it in a way that's gonna also put off your people who have read the whole series. So usually just a page or two. Often it can be done as a kind of a recap for people who have read the series who just need a little refresher about the last book. But yeah, no, I'll read both. I'm currently loving the Matt Helm series of spy thrillers. I guess you could say Raymond Chandler's Philip Marlowe is a series. That's a great example of you don't need to read any of the other books. You can pick up any Chandler at any point, and I feel like you'd still really enjoy it. There's not a lot of references to other characters in other books. But yeah, generally though, I generally do like a standalone. If I find a series, I generally want to try and read the whole series, which can sometimes be problematic in some of the older ones where it's harder to find. Even something like the Easy Rollins series by Walter Mosley, I'm having a hard time finding a couple of the books. But I'm not adverse to skipping. I'm not adverse to skipping a book or two of the series if I can't find them, and then just getting the others. Number 8, which would you rather, long or short books? I like the book to be the length of the story, to be honest. It doesn't really matter if it's 150 pages or 1,500 pages. If the book length suits the story or the subject matter, whatever, then that's the length the book needs to be. It's really it's really down to what's contained in the book and what's the story or the argument if it's non-fiction. It's nothing to do with like I'll read a long book happily. I'll read short books happily. I just don't want something to feel briefer than it needs to be, or if it's really long, I don't want it to feel like it has padding. So that's basically it. Yeah, it doesn't really matter for me to pick up a book. I'm not daunted by large books. I don't care if I'm reading one book for 6 months. I'm still reading. Like I'm not bothered by that. Number 9. Which format do you like best? Mass market paperback. Huge fan of the mass market paperback. It's the most affordable. If you want to buy books, it's the most affordable. If you buy new books, that is. It's the most affordable. It's the most convenient. And if you treat them well, they're not that, like, they do hold up. They hold up to a good few readings at least. And I'm very hard on my books, but I still love a mass market paperback. Number 10, what are you reading? Well, to show you that I really do love mass market paperbacks, I am reading the mass market paperback of The Bone Tree by Greg Eilis. Or Eilis? I'm not actually sure of the pronunciation. This is like 862 pages. And this is the second in the trilogy, his Natchez Burning trilogy. So this is Natchez Burning was the first one, The Bone Tree is the second one, and the third one is Mississippi Blood, I believe. And this basically takes influence from historical racial killings in the Mississippi-Louisiana border area of like Natchez and Faraday. And it kind of just fictionalizes it, but it's very, very much rooted in fiction, in non-fiction. And actually, his I believe friend wrote a book, kind of basically about the crimes that influenced Greg Eilis in this trilogy. It's Stanley Nelson's Devil Walking. It's on my to-buy list for sure. And yeah, Stanley Nelson actually was an investigative reporter, I believe, who essentially got it basically investigated all these historical crimes, I believe 8, and attached them to this this like wing of the Ku Klux Klan called the Silver Dollar. The Silver Dollar currency, and yeah, it was basically they were like a much more covert Ku Klux Klan group. Who they were called the Silver Dollars because they just carried a silver dollar as a kind of unity and recognition. But yeah, he wrote that book, and I think it basically led to convictions, and but more kind of maybe even more importantly, bit of closure to the I think eight families of the 8 victims, which they were all cold cases, I believe, and yeah, so it's a very like the first Natchez Burning was incredible, and then this is starting off to be good, and it does a really good job of what I said of recapping the book, but also if you came into this, if you just started reading this, you know everything you need to know. I mean, if I started reading this with the recap, I'm gonna be like, ooh, this is the second book in the trilogy. I might want to go and read the first one first, but you could read this book without having to read the first one. You would get a lot less out of it, but it would make sense. And yeah, so if you don't know Greg Eilis and you love crime and you're interested in kind of like I guess racial history of especially the South in America, and kind of interested and appalled by all the Ku Klux Klan and hate groups and stuff like that. And yeah, I would very much recommend this as a reading experience. And also, yeah, definitely go and check out the Stanley Nelson Devil Walking book. I'm definitely gonna be picking that up very soon, and I'll read that as well. And so that was the reading taste tag. Not quite as quick as I wanted it to be, but hopefully just a little check-in. Been quite busy recently, so I'm gonna be very busy, so not sure how much I'll be posting to the channel, but hope to do at least one video a week if I can. But yeah, I'm sure you'll see me on the comments field of all your channels as well. So have a nice day.